We are live on YouTube, and Ben's going to make me host again so I can thank you.
Okay.
Whatever you like, Chairman.
Are we ready, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
We have 5 people. Michael Sinde said he's going to join, so I guess we could start. We have a quorum, right?
Yeah.
Jeffrey Atwell, Joseph Martin, Eric Frausto, Kimberly Byrne, Clifford, Griffin.
Okay, very good. Well, we're reconvening from last month's meeting, and I see the participants are here. Would you care to make your presentation to the committee as to bring them up to date as to what's going on, please?
So we brought in a valet company who's been in the business for about 15 years. They've done all the paperwork, the contractor form, the business license. They've set up the route for where we're going to be taking the cars that are going to be valeted, which is Grove Street. That we're going to be using them on weekends, Friday through Sunday, 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. It's going to be a no charge or charge. We're still debating that. If we do charge, it's going to be $10. But my dad's leaning into not charging for the first year. Weekdays, we will be used, as in Monday through Thursday, we will be using one of our employees for, let's say, we're going to start off with on-site parking. If it gets too overcrowded, we're going to start valeting, moving into Danny's Market. Plan B is Grove Street, but that's on weekdays. So that wouldn't be a problem. As far as the one employee that we will be using for valeting, insurance is already set up. The insurance is already set up with that, such as damage on Danny's Market. I think the coverage is $1 million. Damage on the person who's driving the car, damage on such as the employee, if he gets injured, he's covered. So it's covered in all aspects.
Anyone have any questions?
I guess my question would be for Howard, and just wondering if the changes that are being submitted meet the city's recommendations.
Well, how you call it? I sent an email with the email that the attorney presented. He broke down the parking, 11, 5, and 1, right? It was 11, 6, and 1.
Yes.
In other words, the revision is 11 parking spaces will be provided on site right behind the building. The applicant is asking for 6 cars to be parked on the street and then 1 possibly to be parked at Danny's Market. Their situation is this: since they're starting out as a new business, on the weekdays, they will probably not generate enough customers to have valet parking. Hence the reason why they will use one of their employees as a valet person. If there are more cars starting to pile up, then they'll use Danny's Market. So at this point, the attorney went even further, the applicant's attorney, to reduce the parking variance, in theory, from 8 cars being parked on the street to 6. So they're trying to work as best as possible in reducing the nuisance of cars being parked on a street that might affect residential commercial businesses. So per zoning, per staff, it meets the requirements, with the taxes, the water, insurance. If someone here has more questions about the insurance, both the applicant's son is here, Danny Lozano, the attorney. The only one who couldn't make it was the person, Michael Munau, from 5 Star Valet. So Danny will probably answer on his behalf. For the zoning board members, if they have any questions on the parking on weekdays or weekends.
And I'll jump in real quick to introduce myself, Scott Marsick. I'm the attorney.
we did submit the materials from the valet company so that you should have those to review their application for the city. Last time, there was also a couple questions about making sure that property taxes were up to date. We submitted that paperwork as well as the water bill. And as was just mentioned, the insurance that they're going to pick up for when employees do the valet parking if needed on the weekdays.
If I may interject for a second here, Chairman, Mike Cindy's in the room now too.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
That was the end of my adding.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for anyone there? Howard, how does the city feel about this?
I would like to ask a question of
Sure.
follow up with our previous meeting and more along the lines of, is this a restaurant or a club? Because the owner was pretty adamant about having armed security guards at the door.
This is,
And I don't know how many places in Blue Island have armed security guards at the door.
this is a restaurant. There's a bar, but it's not like a club where there's an open dance floor.
I think that suggestion was brought up as a way to go above and beyond to ensure that they're not seeing problems similar to what the previous business saw. So from everything that we've discussed, it's a restaurant, not a club. And, so I think they're going to run it in a way where I couldn't imagine they're going to need armed security, but that was the reason for that, just because of the severity of the problems experienced by the previous business.
Are there any restaurants in town that have armed security guards?
I don't know the answer to that.
Not to my knowledge either.
Okay.
Okay. Howard, is there any other recommendations you would like to make?
No. The applicant's attorney, the applicant, and the person representing Five Star Valet provided to the Zoning Board of Appeals all of the documents that were pertinent, that was asked from the last meeting. This will eventually be followed up during the building permit process, the business license application and registration process. So the applicant here was trying to demonstrate in good faith that they have a valet company. This person is serious. They're serious in creating a valet parking plan, which they did. They did worst case scenario. They'll even park more vehicles at Grove Street parking lot if there is a need. I spoke with Danny. I spoke with Michael from Five Star with the possibility if there's a special event on a weekday, they'll come in with valet. They're just not going to let people just park willy-nilly all over the neighborhood. So they are aware that they're being watched by the Zoning Board of Appeals, by the two aldermen. People are observing. So they know that they have to do better than the prior business. They understand that.
Okay.
My conversations with all three people.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question, Mr. Chairman, for Howard. If we were to make a motion to approve the variance request, could it be contingent upon, it working out and not being challenging to the neighborhood? And what might that sound like?
So I actually had this conversation with Danny about the possibility of this being revisited in half a year from now to say, what are the trials and tribulations associated with the parking? I guess the board could ask for something like this if the applicant is amendable to it. This party is trying to work as much as they can with the community. They understand the prior business wasn't neighborhood friendly. So it's up to this party to further agree with your suggestion.
Thank
I would like to ask, given the current situation of COVID, due to restaurants having to use their outside space as patio. Have they talked it over also with Danny's to see if they could, like I said, given this current situation with COVID, if they're to seat people outside, then that takes away from their parking. Does he have something set up with Danny maybe while this COVID is going on? Have an allowance of maybe 2 more spots just in case they need it, just to keep cars off the street the way they're trying to?
So with Danny, we have a verbal agreement handshake because he doesn't want to sign a contract. He said, you guys can use my parking as long as you guys have a sign and you valet the cars. I'm like, no problem. We have the valet guy or the valet person to valet the cars. He said we can use his parking. So there shouldn't be a problem with that. But then again, right now we're focused on opening right now. I mean, COVID has obviously hit restaurants heavily with a lot of, there's mainly a lot of delivery. I mean, let's say if they were to dine in and we can't allow people inside because we don't know the future. I mean, from now on, like we might go back to where you can only be outside and you can't go inside of a building anymore. We don't know.
Exactly. I guess in essence, what I'm saying is, have you thought about it? Are you prepared to have a plan B that you have told, given the city, hey, just in case we do go back a phase, we're prepared to do such and such?
Well, I feel if it goes into us only having outside, it would include maybe the patio could maybe fit four or five tables, maybe 4 with the spacing. We don't know like 6 feet apart, which would be 4 cars. That fits on the parking in the back.
Okay.
That's saying.
So your patio's in the front of the restaurant.
Yeah, the patio in front.
I think one thing to keep in mind is that the more restrictions are required due to COVID, the less parking spots are going to be needed. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I had a question. Do we know Danny's hours? And
Danny or Victor?
Danny's closes at, I believe, 10 p.m.
Okay, so you're only going to be using their parking after 10 o'clock?
Yes, but I mean, we're closing at 12. Usually people come back from work around 7. They shower, they get ready. They'll be coming to the restaurant around 8 or 9. So by the time Danny's closes, that's when people are going to start picking up. And then again, it's also our first year. It's a new business. Restaurants are taking a big hit. So there's not a lot of people coming to restaurants. It's mainly delivery at the moment. But like I said, Danny's is the option. And then we can also use Grove Street to valet the cars if that is needed.
Sure. So I just want to make sure. So the only parking at Danny's would be after they close. Is that the understanding? Because you don't have an official written agreement with them. You said you have kind of a handshake agreement. And is it only using it after they close, or is it also using it during their business hours?
After they close. But I can talk to him, and he can probably set up aside 4 parking spots during business hours. But again, the main weekdays, honestly, it's not going to be very busy. First year starting off.
Sure.
And our main money is going to be on the weekends, and that's why we're using Grove Street. And like I said, weekdays, if we need to use Grove Street, we will use Grove Street.
Okay.
Chairman Byrne, I have a question. It's my understanding, I think I'm hearing this, is that there still isn't any kind of written agreement between your organization and Danny's as far as using their parking lot. Is that correct?
Yes. But I mean, Danny's is allowing us to use his parking.
You have nothing in writing that shows that.
There's no need. I mean, you can talk to his name's Bobby. That's the main.
I would like that in writing. I mean, that's a concern of mine. And I think that's a concern of others is a written agreement.
Okay, if anything, all right, if you guys don't want me to use Danny's, we could use Grove Street.
We are only talking about one spot at Danny's. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your concern is that we don't have a lease agreement with Danny. I mean,
It doesn't have to be a sophisticated agreement. It can just be something in writing that shows that there is an agreement between the two parties. It helps you actually as a business.
It is beneficial to you to have Danny's.
Right.
I don't mean to, but it is beneficial to you to have Danny's, kind of give the approval blessing per se,
Yeah,
right.
I know. I mean,
Yeah, I don't want to see one of your customers get towed who's parked at Danny's who had permission there, or an employee parked there.
No,
and you're dealing with an issue there. So mainly protecting yourself versus anyone else.
The thing with Danny's is no customer is allowed to just drive up to Danny's. They will have to be valeted. Therefore, that's where the insurance comes into play. Where let's say it gets towed, car gets hit, employee gets injured, insurance is going to cover that. The insurance is even going to cover. It's also going to cover Danny's building, his area. It has a 1 million or 2 million coverage, I believe. I have to check on that.
Mr. I actually have follow up. My understanding is that the gentleman from Danny's was unwilling to do a contract with you. He had no interest in that. Is that correct?
He doesn't want to sign something on paper. His name's Bob.
Okay, thank you.
And his brother is the owner of the chains, and Bobby, his name's Bobby. He's the one that's running Danny's, the one that's on Vermont.
Perhaps it's in light of the board's request of having that more appropriate to remove that one spot as part of your plan and just rely on Grove Street so that you don't actually have to go get that document that the person that you're trying to get the document with is unwilling to do.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, yeah, we can just use Grove Street on weekends, on weekdays at my bed, if that makes you guys feel a lot more comfortable.
If it were more than one spot, then it would make sense for you to try to do that. But it sounds like he's not willing. So you're chasing that for one spot, which is really minimal.
Right. Chairman Byrne again, Commissioner Byrne, sorry. I have another question. Is there any kind of signage? I think we're assuming that your customers are going to sort of do the right thing. But is there any signage as far as helping your customers understand their parking kind of responsibilities or obligations, not to park down the street or over at Danny's or anything like that? How is that being sort of more formally communicated?
So for valet, Michael Maneo, he sent over, I don't know if you checked the email, he sent over all the signs that are going to be used. And quite honestly, when you're driving to a restaurant, you're not really thinking about parking over to the supermarket because you're going to the restaurant. You're not going to park at the store. And like Mr. Atwell said, if it's just going to be for one, then I'm going to agree with Mr. Atwell. We're just using Grove Street on the weekdays. I mean, the route's already there. It's everything's planned. So, I mean, we don't have to use Danny's if we don't need to. And if it makes you guys uncomfortable with me using Danny's, we can move over with Grove Street on the weekdays. I'm trying to be as flexible as possible here with you guys.
Okay.
I don't have any problems with kind of going forward from my perspective. I do think that kind of a review after 6 months, it might be a good idea. Just ensure everything's going okay. There aren't any complaints from neighbors or local other businesses. That would just be one of my requests.
Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
I'm sort of talking to the committee that I don't have a problem with going forward, approving this. But again, I think Howard made a comment that I liked, which was maybe in about 6 months, kind of have a review to make sure there aren't any complaints. Neighbors, businesses are, not complaining or any issues with parking. Just to, again, review it. This is a kind of a new test, and I know you want to be successful, so I'm sure it will go well, but I think a 6-month review would be reasonable, I think.
I'm in agreement with that because of the virus and what's going on. We never know what's going to happen from week to week. And a review in a few months would make everybody feel a lot more comfortable. So I'm in agreement with that.
And allow them to proceed as well, so.
Okay.
Exactly.
Any other questions?
So would we write or approve a temporary variance, Howard, or putting a time of 6 months from today on the recommendation, or how would that actually look?
I think it would be 6 months from opening. We don't want it to be 6 months from today.
Sure.
Yeah, 6 months from opening.
Well, it wouldn't be a temporary variance, but it would be a variance with those particular conditions added to it. That's the way we would have to write it.
Right, I would be concerned if the variance ended in 6 months, if we
Yeah.
weren't able to get together and, I think you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, yes, quite naturally. Okay, does anybody have a recommendation for this?
One other thing,
Go ahead.
just, housekeeping for our attorney. I submitted findings of facts, which was submitted by the attorney, and I presented our findings as a group. So when you do make a condition to approve, please keep that in mind, that the findings are also being approved. This is a housekeeping by our attorney for the ordinance that comes later on in the city council process. So I just want to make sure that I've resubmitted all the materials, my original staff report with some modifications, the findings for the variance, and all the materials that were recently revised and submitted by the applicants for this second meeting.
Okay. Anybody care to make a recommendation?
I suppose that I would like to make that recommendation, Mr. Chairman. However, I'm have a little bit of trepidation on wording. If we're not allowed to specifically state that it would be temporary, what the text would be so that there could be a review 6 months after opening.
Well, we would approve it, the variance. At any point, we can always pull it. So at that 6-month review, if everything has gone sideways on it, we can revoke the variance.
Okay. And then one follow-up question, Mr. Howard. Have you received any input from the community specifically regarding the last meeting regarding this request or heading into tonight? To my knowledge, there's been no input from the community, correct?
Right, no input. This was advertised again for the Open Meetings Act 48 hours before this meeting. It's on the agenda. I mentioned it twice purposely in the last meeting that we're going to have this meeting today at this time. So yes, I advertised as much as possible what the state allows us to do, meeting the state's requirements.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that in mind, the recommendation would be to approve the variance with also the condition that it's reviewed 6 months after opening, that they're not going to use Danny's parking lot, as well as the city's recommendations added to it as well. So that's the way the variance would read.
Right, and the variance, remember, is for 8 parking spaces, the original variance that was submitted. In this situation, the vehicles might be parked on the street or might be provided for valet, especially on the weekend. So I just want everyone to be aware of this, because that was the original application for the variance.
The original was 8. Did they amend it down to 6?
Could the attorney go over the email, the breakdown?
Well, it was 11 in the lot
Right.
and
11 in
six-
the lots. I don't remember 11 ever being in the lots.
No, it was 11 in the lot. Give me one second.
Let's double check those numbers, please.
Got it right now. Oh yes, 11 in the lot, 6 on the street, 1 at Danny's. That would be 18. The variance was
For 8 parking spaces.
So they lowered it by 2. 8 street parkings down to 6, right? Am I correct? Yeah, so it
You know-
was 11 in the lot, 6 on the street, and 1 at Danny's. Am I correct?
Yes.
Right. I suppose the variance is for the 6. It was reduced by 2. Right. You're right. The
It was
variance,
reduced by
yes,
2 from
reduced
8.
by 2. Yes, you're right.
Okay, well,
Hard to wrap your mind around all the
yeah.
numbers.
Right, the original variance was for 8 parking
Okay, so
spaces.
they actually, yeah.
They're
Good that they did that, yeah.
they modified their rear parking plan because remember I suggested if they could stack more cars. They decided to go with an alternative parking scheme. So they're doing 11 and then 6 on the street. And then 1 would have been at Danny's, but now this would be at Grove if needed, or if more vehicles need to be parked at Grove, then this attendant from the restaurant will bring those cars over to Grove Street.
And let's make sure that that's also added in in the final report.
Okay.
Okay, Howard?
As you're discussing, I'm writing it down. I'm taking the notes.
Okay. So with that in mind, is there anything other recommendations we want to put in there? Okay. Do I have someone to second the motion that I made?
I second.
Let's take it by a roll call vote, please.
Clifford Griffin,
Yes.
Jeff Atwell, yes. Kimberly Byrne,
Hi.
Michael Sinde,
Yes.
Eric Frausto,
Yes.
Joseph Martin.
Yes.
I believe that's 6 to 0, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so it passes. Well, gentlemen, good luck. We will review this 6 months after your opening, but you still have other hurdles to
Yep.
overcome, which is with the city council and whatever, but the recommendation coming from us will be presented to him, and Howard could tell you exactly when. So be prepared to make the same conversation with them as you have with us. And I want to wish you all good luck and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, now let's move on. We have a new project that we have to look at, which is the property that's located 12101 Southwestern Avenue. And I think the attorney is here to represent that.
Can we just go over some of the materials on the agenda?
Sure.
You did your roll call. We went directly into this meeting because it was a continuation, so that's why I did not interject. Under public comment, on the agenda, if anybody had any questions, concerns for this continuation of the parking variance or the special use that's going to be heard now, they had until 5 p.m. today to email me or call me. No one has called or emailed me on this, so there's no news to report on that. Under old business, the review and the approval of the ZBA minutes from July 2nd, 2020. That was our last meeting. This is not the zoning appeal. Those minutes will not be submitted until the next meeting, but this is for the July 2nd, 2020, which is actually the first part of this parking variance, the minutes of that.
Yeah.
It needs to be approved.
Okay. Anything else, Howard?
Yeah, could you just do a first motion, second for the approval of the minutes for this parking variance?
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Anyone to second it?
I'll second. I'll second it.
Okay,
All right, let's take a vote.
Clifford Griffin,
Yes.
Jeff Atwell, yes. Kimberly Byrne,
Yes.
Michael Sinde,
Yes.
Eric Frausto,
Yes.
Joseph Martin.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0, Mr. Chair.
No, thank you very much. Okay. Without further ado, who would like to speak first regarding this next project at 120th and Western, 121st and Western?
so I'll mention, the planning commissioners reviewed this application. They approved it unanimously, 6-0. So several items were discussed. So now it's for them to present this application to you as the zoning board of appeal.
Okay, who would like to go first?
Good evening, everyone. Todd Walters, I'm the attorney for the applicant, Mr. Ziad. We seek, or my client seeks, to open a wheel and tire shop at 12100 Southwestern Avenue in Blue Island, named Tires Are Us. They have another location currently that's been in operation for a number of years. It's specifically wheels, tires, rims, car toys, including car alarms, audio systems, speakers, and what you may have seen, LED lighting, like ground effects, they call it, for automobiles. They don't anticipate doing any type of oil changes or that type of thing. It's not that type of store or shop. I think the planning board did an excellent job in putting the materials together. So if anybody has any questions regarding that, I can certainly try and answer those, as can my client, Mr. Ziad, who's also present this evening.
Well, this is almost a continuation of what was happening in that particular facility before. I think they were doing car stereos and things of that nature. So really, you're only adding, several other aspects other than that.
That is correct.
Okay. Will there be any cars stored there overnight?
Not that we anticipate, no. So we have, or the client will have, specific appointments and of course drive-ins, people that may see driving by the client conducting business or the applicant conducting business and driving in that way. But no, we don't anticipate any cars parked overnight, not for the type of work they're going to be doing.
My only concern is, and you do have enough space for parking on site, and that is taking up a lot of spots on the street itself. That would concern me, because that is a high traffic area. Now, before, I never noticed any congestion within that facility while it was in operation. So I don't know how much business you intend to do per day, how many cars per day.
Hopefully many.
Pardon me?
Hopefully many.
Hopefully many, yeah.
But we don't anticipate any parking on the street at all. There is going to be parking on site. And as we discussed at the earlier hearing this evening, we will have the property restriped to allow for specific parking spots, both on 121st Street as well as on the premises itself.
Okay.
One question, when you say on the premises, would that be in the front of the building? And if I recall, this property has a chain link fence. As you're facing the front of the property to the right, would you be able to use that for parking also?
That is correct. That's part of what's going to be what we anticipate being restriped on the property. On 121st Street, excuse me, on the north side of the property, there's also parking.
Mm-hmm. Good.
We are gonna have
Commissioner Byrne.
outside of the building about 8
Right.
parkings. Also on the south side of the building where the fence is, we're gonna remove that. We're gonna have a fence, but it's gonna be mobile. During the day, it's gonna be open, so we're gonna have about 10 spots in there. So
Oh,
roughly, we're gonna
yeah,
have
that's
about
more than enough.
18 spots.
Hopefully you'll have more. Yeah, that should be more than enough.
You were gonna say something, Commissioner Byrne?
Yes, how many employees will be working there, basically?
Roughly about 4, could be more. Hopefully, we have more, but roughly, we're gonna start with 4.
Okay, thank you.
You have to take into account their parking also.
Right.
Yes, that's for sure.
And that is included in your plan?
Yes, it will be.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody else have any other
Yes,
concerns?
one question. Now, they had mentioned tires, and Tires Are Us is the name, right? Is there any current automobile lifts inside the building, or how do you? I mean, usually when sometimes they jack the cars up to do the tire service. Do you anticipate having to install any of that equipment in the future?
As of now, no. In the future, we might just put lift. We might put one lift. But I mean, we're doing right now business in other spots. We don't have no lifts whatsoever. And we rather to have a scissor jack, which is a mobile jack. You could move it around.
Okay.
It's faster for us and it's much better than a stand lift inside the building.
Okay. Yes, I believe mobile jacks only go up so high. They don't go overhead. They only go
Probably,
about.
a foot and a half max.
Okay.
Less liability.
Okay.
You're saying Tires Are Us, but you also say you're doing addition to the cars, such as lighting and so on, where you're gonna have to raise the cars and so on?
More or less accessories, I think, right?
That is
That's
correct.
correct.
So in essence, you won't be like a Firestone dealer, so to speak, in dealing with tires. Is that correct?
We are like Firestone plus toys. Again, we do everything cosmetics or toy for the cars.
So,
Under,
if I could interject.
Sure.
It's just like what I explained in my staff report. They're going to be modifying a vehicle possible. They might be lifting a vehicle further up from the floor or ground, or lowering the vehicle to give it that special effect. Upsizing wheels and rims to create a special effect. There might be LEDs installed below the frame of the automobile. You know, if someone wants a spoiler, I guess these guys can put a spoiler with LED lights, stuff like that. So it's gonna be a little bit more involved than just simply, you know, changing stereos inside. Car tinting, window tinting is also being provided. But there'll be external features to a car. If a person wants to add more stuff to a vehicle, I guess Taylor will be more than happy to accommodate, you know, like he says, car toys, accessories to a vehicle.
Yeah, I saw the examples that you had in the information of the way the cars look when they're done,
Yes.
you know, okay. Okay, anybody else have any concerns or questions? Okay, with that, do I have a motion to approve the variance on this?
I so move, Mr. Chair.
Before we do that, let's first make a motion to accept the recommendation from the Planning Commission.
I move that we accept the recommendation from the Planning Commission to authorize the special use for tire sales and automobile accessories.
So
Anybody? Go ahead, Howard.
Does the current system they have for car sales and so on, does that cover the modification of automobiles such as spoilers and lights and all that? Is that all covered under the tire sales?
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand the question.
In my understanding, you saying,
It falls under the same
go ahead.
ordinance. It falls under the same ordinance.
Right, so just like the applicant, my staff report says right here, they're in the process of applying for a special use for two categories. The first one is automobile repair shop, enhancements to the physical car, inside or outside, and automobile body and fender shop. If they're gonna make the fenders, maybe making longer, adding spoilers, adding stuff to the frame of the car. So it's gonna cover both. And like I explained in my staff report, because this was a two-step process, the first part is we have an ordinance from 1999 that says if there's a change of owner or lease, that the new person or entity will have to come for a special use once again. And the second one is kind of like what these guys already hinted, the attorney or Taylor Zayad. If they're going to be enhancing or adding more features, it's already covered under these special use. For example, if they want to put a spray booth, they want to color cars differently or put stripes or stars on it. With this special use for fender and bumpers, fender and body, it's covered. So they just apply for a building permit and meet environmental regulations. So this is pretty much allowing them to use it right now, and with the perspective of expanding their business capacity. So it's like a 2-in-1. They're going for it. They're restating the special use, and now they could add to it. If their customer base wants more and more stuff, they could provide it.
Yeah. Clear now? Okay, so can I have a motion to approve
Well,
the recommendation? Go ahead.
Yeah. So what I wanted to discuss when the Planning Commission approved the special use. Right, they also approved the staff's suggestion, and they were the following. I wrote it down, so I'll repeat it verbatim. Let's see. So they're gonna restripe the area for parking both on 121st Street and on Western. The second one, they're going to add some landscaping to the property. There was discussion at the Planning Commission if they're going to rip out concrete and plant it. Since this property is being leased at the current manner, the applicant feels more comfortable in doing planters and pots and change it twice a year for winter and spring/summer. So it will lighten up the area. And then the third condition is, adding a trash enclosure for their dumpster that faces 121st Street. So that's what the planning commissioners approved with these conditions, the three that I listed: the parking, striping, some landscaping to enhance the property, and the trash enclosure.
Very good. Okay, so do I have a second from someone to accept those?
A second.
All right, who was the first?
Jeff
Clifford?
did.
Cliff, okay. Cliff Griffin. Second is who, Kimberly?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's take a vote on it as well.
Clifford Griffin,
Yes.
Jeff Atwell, yes. Kimberly Byrne,
Yes.
Michael Sinde,
Yes.
Eric Frausto,
Yes.
Joseph Martin.
Yes, they are following all the recommendation that the planning committee did.
Correct.
Yes, yes.
Now, with that in tow, do I have another recommendation for the approval of the special use here with all of those conditions? Do you have any that you want to add yourself?
No, thank you.
Okay. So do I have a motion from somebody to approve the special use?
I so move, Mr. Chair.
I second.
I'll second.
Okay.
So who's the second?
I'll second.
Okay, Joseph.
Okay. All right. So nobody wants to add anything else? They're comfortable with the recommendations made by the planning commission?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a vote on it for approval.
Clifford Griffin,
Yes.
Jeff Atwell, yes. Kimberly Byrne,
Yes.
Michael Sinde,
Yes.
Eric Frausto,
Yes.
Joseph Martin.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. Okay, gentlemen, well, thank you very much. Good luck. And
Thank you so much, guys.
as I told the last applicants, you will have to make some type of presentation to the city council because they have the final approval on it. Okay, but our recommendation will be forwarded to them. Howard will let you know when that will be.
Very good. Thank you, everyone, and stay well.
You too as well. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to discuss from anyone?
I do.
Okay.
So we currently have Ophelia Smith Evans here. She's listening into our zoning board for two reasons. So she was very particular about the parking variance, especially the parking, and also the special use process, because she's in the process of proposing her development application, which is going to include a text amendment, a special use, and a parking variance. So she wanted to get an idea on how the planning commission and how the zoning board of appeal interact, the type of questions, the type of documents that might be submitted on her application. So I suggested, for her to participate, listen in. I see she's online, so she's probably listening in, to give her an idea on what type of questions are going to be asked and how the presentation is going to be proposed. They're going to be presented by the property owner and by a land use attorney, so they will have full representation. Also, just like I explained to the planning commissioner, the date for this special hearing for Ophelia's banquet will be Wednesday, August 26th, 2020. And you guys will begin at 7:30 and go all the way to 9 o'clock. The planning commission is going to start at 6 and they're going to go to 7:30. You guys will be 7:30 to 9. The reason why I'm doing a special meeting is for two reasons. The first one is to dedicate ourselves to this huge development application that's being proposed. And the second part is to give ample time, because it's going to be 3 documents or 3 applications. The text amendment to allow a banquet hall use as a facility. The second one is the special use process, like this one, reviewing, the parking, how people are going to enter the site, what type of hours, what type of events will participate or will take. And then the third part is the parking variance. Now, the parking variance is going to be a bigger one, because we also had Sam Schwartz provide us with a parking study. So we have an idea where cars could be parked. Unlike the parking variance you just finished approving, this is going to be more of a structured manner. So I just want to inform everyone. So I hope we could at least tackle each of these components in a half-hour component. Text amendment, special use, and parking. So again, I have to run the advertisement as quickly as possible to meet the 15 days for advertising. But I wanted to dedicate a special night, and both planning and zoning have agreed to that special day at Wednesday, August 26th, and with the hours I suggested, to give ample time for questions and reviews and comments and what have you.
Very good. Anybody have any concerns or questions regarding that?
Just thank you to Howard for the explanation, for all of the effort you're putting into that. And I feel like, it's always a positive for us to approve new business in Blue Island, and look forward to hearing the next new business at the end of the month.
Yes.
Hear, hear.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a
Aye.
good, have a good month, and we'll see you on the 26th. Stay well.
Thank you. You guys
Thank
also.
you. Take
Thank you.
care.
Good luck, Miss Ophelia.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate everything. Even letting me listen in. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Everyone have a good evening.
Yes,
Take
sir.
care, Cliff.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good to you.